It doesn't go fast, it's not that particularly easy to fly, it's cold, it's uncomfortable. But I'm one of those people that doesn't mind doing things the hard way for the sake of it, and I found a whole bunch of friends that like doing the same thing. If you were setting up a formation team, you probably wouldn't choose a Tiger Moth. Jeff Milsom, I run the Tiger 9 display team. There had been a previous team which is called the Diamond 9, which was set up by a chap called Charlie Shea Simmons in 1985, and he's actually was up here today. He doesn't fly anymore, but that team ran successfully for 15 years. They did a huge number of air shows. There was a gap where there weren't any Tiger Moth display teams until there was a requirement for the 25th anniversary of a Woburn Abbey rally, and they were asking if there was a 9 ship, and in a very small voice I remember saying, if I were to lead a 9 ship, do you think we've got 9 pilots that would be interested in doing it? And we got 9 volunteers, and we very carefully got 9 aircraft airborne, joined them up into a formation, did a couple of flypasts, and then took it apart again and got them all back down. And it was quite an achievement, and as much as I wanted to do for the first one. It's interesting when you look at the rules and regulations about close formation flying. Can you, when you're airborne, can you just go and fly up alongside another aircraft? Is it legal to do that? And the answer is no, it's not. You're not allowed to do that unless both pilots have agreed to do it. And you think, well, why would that rule be in there? Why would the CAA stop us doing that? And when you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense, because you're bumming along there and you don't know, but your mate's pitched up on your wing. You might think, all right, time to go home and stick on some bank and do a hard turn to the right, and you've made a little mistake by not looking out before you turn. Very easy to do, and your mate was there. So that is the basic first rule of formation flying. Now, when you get lots of aeroplanes, the more airplanes you get, the more complicated it is. So you have to have a brief, you have to have a plan. So as leader of the team, it's one of my guys going home, as leader of the team, my role is to, for every air display, I go off on my own with all the details of the airfield, the display line, the crowd line, the places you've got to avoid, and I work out a plan. And my job then is to convey that plan to all the other pilots so that they all understand exactly what I'm thinking, and they've got to know that my plan has to be robust from the beginning to the end. It is fatal to get halfway through a brief and then realise you've made a mistake and change it, because you've now got 2 plans in some of the pilots' heads, and it's so easy for them to revert what I said the first time before I corrected it. Throughout the brief, they all know there's no such thing as a daft question. I make mistakes. If they say, Jeff, I thought we were turning right there, I'll say, no, that is a left turn because of this, and so on. Once we've done the brief, it's then vitally important that we exercise that brief without any aeroplanes involved, and so we do that by doing a walkthrough. It might look like us playing follow my leader on the airfield, but it's done. I make the calls that I'll make on the radio, but I'm not giving any briefing, I'm not giving any instructions. It's my opportunity to test that I have correctly conveyed my plan to every pilot, and that they can remember that plan and they can demonstrate it by walking through. And if we dive down to a bomb burst and we all turn the correct way and one person turns the wrong way, that's not a problem. He's misunderstood something in the brief. We remind him what he's supposed to be doing. We go back and we walk through it again. And until everybody is absolutely clear, we won't get a consensus that we're going to go and fly it. So the briefing and the walkthrough are absolutely essential when you're putting up a lot of aircraft together. I was one of those young chaps at the age of about 14. I built a balsa wood model aeroplane, and I just became entranced by this magical world of flight. As time went on, I went off to university, joined the University Air Squadron, and I was lucky enough to fly the Jet Provost at Cranwell, and then I went on to the Red and White Hawks as they were at Valley, and then down to Chivener on Camouflage Hawks, and I was posted on to the Phantom conversion unit. converted onto Phantoms, did a couple of tours up at Lucas, air defence of the north of the UK, flying Phantoms in air defence role, and it was the sport of kings. At the time, I thought, well, this is my job. I thought everybody does this sort of thing during the week, and they get go to the bar on Friday night and have a few beers with their mates. And it's only when I look back on it, I realised how special those years were, and to be allowed to fly an aeroplane like that is. It was a great privilege, I realise now, and probably the pinnacle of my flying career. And having moved from there into the airlines have very different challenges, different sort of flying. But for me, the urge when I punched up through a layer of cloud into glorious sunshine on a winter's day to whop on full aileron and do a quick twinkle roll, it didn't go down terribly well with the passengers, but so I had to resist that urge. But the need to fly was still there, and it wasn't really being satisfied by the airline flying job. Within the airline that I worked for at the time, there was a father and son. The father had flown Spitfires during the war, and between them they shared a Tiger Moth. And I managed to blag a ride in this Tiger Moth on a summer's evening from Tollerton, and I thought, this is fantastic, going out on a grass runway, rocking around, surrounded by struts and wires and no brakes. And we just did a couple of circuits on this summer's evening, and for me it was like a little bit of flying that I'd missed before I started flying on a Bulldog. I recognised it as a flying machine. It was a machine that was designed to fly, as early machines were, and I was thinking, well, the Tiger Moths will keep me interested for a little while. This was going on in about 1993. And this aircraft behind me was a lorry load of parts. It hadn't flown since 1952 when it was sold off from the RAF, and we bought it in about 1998, and by August 2000 she was fully assembled, flying, and was in very, very nice condition, and I've been the proud custodian of this aircraft for the last 23 years. So my initial idea that I would be my flying need would be satisfied by the Tiger Moths for a couple of years actually took a lot longer, and I find now that because I've got the aeroplane, which I still enjoy, it doesn't go fast, it's not that particularly easy to fly, it's cold, it's uncomfortable, but I'm one of those people that doesn't mind doing things the hard way for the sake of it, and I found a whole bunch of friends that like doing the same thing. If you're doing setting up a formation team, you probably wouldn't choose a Tiger Moth, but we all have a passion for these aircraft, and up here at the end of a training day, which we are now, I've just watched my chums get airborne and the sound of the Gypsy Major burbling away as they head off back, two to Old Ward and one back to White Waltham, and they're bumbling off. We've had a cracking good day, we've improved the team, we've got it up to standard. It's a thoroughly enjoyable social weekend. There's a certain charisma about a Tiger Moth, and I think we all think of them as our friends, and we thoroughly enjoy messing about with our Tiger Moths.